Harry, good evening to you, Harry.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah.
Evening to you, Harry. How you doing, my brother?
I've seen better days.
Yeah. You're a real soldier, sir. Did Dr. King teach you at the university, sir?
One economics course before he left to Capri.
He's not lecturing at the university anymore?
Not by my understanding.
He's the head of Capri now.
Yeah, he left for a while. He left intermittently when I was there, 2016, to advise governments across the Caribbean, and then went to Capri. I'm not aware of him there anymore.
Do you know if Dr. King provides advice to the current government?
He would, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There is what you call determinism in economics, Harry. I'm sure you know about that, and that is the whole idea that resources leads to corruption, the resource curse. What is your response to hearing the leading one of the leading economic voice in Jamaica suggesting that should we discover oil, it would corrupt the country, or it would not help us? What is your response to that?
I think for me, neighbor, the right stance would have been one of delay rather than to deter. And I say that because personally, I don't think we've had put in place enough safeguards, being that we're in a democratic society. And of course, at any given time, this opposition could become the leader. And we've seen what they've done with resources before, right? Specifically bauxite, which was poorly managed. Bauxite at that time would have been our oil, or the oil equivalent. And poor risk management, improper infrastructural when it comes on to legislate and so on, caused us to not even realize 10% of the gains that we could have had, right? So I'm more on the side of delay until we get a lot of these guardrails put in place. Specifically, this is one of the things I know of Norway that they did. Now, based on the current opposition, neighbor, I don't expect them to agree to something like what Norway did, because in the mid to late 60s, right, going into the early 70s, Norway actually had what they call like the 10 commandments and so on, that both major political parties agreed upon, right? And that was the catalyst for the movement. So what they saw was an out for Norway to become something great. And they agreed to a lot of the things. Some things they disagreed on, of course, naturally, but the foundational things never removed despite who was in government. And that was key. Looking at the current opposition, neighbor, they're just there to oppose and they will not agree to anything. Case in point, the Jamaican government loaning the $24 billion to JPS after Melissa to get restoration of power. That is something that is not just humanitarian, but getting your people back on track, right? It's a necessity, and they opposed it. And I think this is one of the things in which Dr. King may be fearing, without saying explicitly, that if the current government stays and put in place the guardrails, then we may not have anything to worry about. But just the probability of how the current opposition operates, we may find ourselves falling behind when we should be advancing or wasting another opportunity, right? And Dr. King would have pulled on some of that. But this is something I'm saying to everybody. In order for us to trust our most important resource, which is the people, then we're also putting the trust in the people in understanding that if we do struck gold on oil, the power is in their hands to ensure that it is properly governed, and properly governed means they put the right people back in government to do so. If not, then the fear of mismanagement may become a reality.
Okay, very, 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 very fair. But let me ask you, Harry, would you say that the current administration, by demonstration, is a fiscally responsible government, is a government that has shown fiscal responsibility since they assumed government in 2016?
2016, they have tremendously. They've moved the needle more than the needle have been moved over the last 2 decades prior to, right? And it is more than commendable in its entirety. So they're exercising what we should have done with bauxite.
Yes.
And as such, you may look at it, some people may say it's optimism, to say they'll stay the course, but there's no deterrent and no facts to say they will move away from that fiscal discipline. Now, others will say it takes more than fiscal discipline to do so, and may look towards the legislative aspect. And again, this is a problem with having an opposition as we do, because looking at, for example, NARA, that is getting a fight unnecessarily, right? Which is more than just an infrastructural development bill being placed. Of course, it is renewable after 5 years, which is very good. And it is one that is subjected to the ruling of Parliament, which is also good. Now, to see something like that, which can transform Jamaica out of a crisis, some may say it's the rise of a phoenix out of the ashes, right?
Yes.
And to see it being fought tooth and nail, neighbor, by the opposition, who has no alternative, who has nothing to put forward, no additional or alternative recommendation. It is no different to say they may fight and continue to fight in this manner just for the source of power in that aspect. And again, democracy allows or give them the probability to still become a government at some point in time, because nothing lasts forever, right? And that is why I said my stance on it is delay rather than deter.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean delay?
So delaying for me is to put in place the legislative framework to not just protect oil as our resource if we do struck oil, right? But to govern it beyond the current government, govern it beyond the next generation. Because one of the most beautiful things is that we may be starting further ahead than Norway when they did, right? Which means we're advanced to a great level.
Yeah.
And as such, of course, this government has shown that they are key with studying other countries. Prime example, NARA, and I would have said this a few months ago, NARA came out of the Christchurch disaster down south, the Philippines tsunami issue, and also the Hurricane Katrina in the US. That's actually how NARA was birthed, right, from those studies. So the current government shows they are more than capable and have the capacity to execute. The only problem is, will the people continue to trust the government going forward? And that is one of the downfall of democracy, right? Because it's not perfect. And the good thing about it is that why I also say delay is that I would love to see the cultural mindset of the people transform even greater. You see this aspect of you still have roughly 500,000 people with the begging culture, with the give me a thing. Those people who support strongly the opposition as it stands need to be, chipped away a little to transform the minds, just to ensure that they can understand what is there. Because there's nothing stopping the current opposition, if we struck oil, to say, we'll promise you things. Because that is what they're known for. And then people will, in the short term, rush at it. One of the key things that Norway did, neighbor, was that they had a long-term plan, well over 100 years type of plan, right? Which was to enable Norway to become a free state in its entirety, meaning there are pension funds that are free for every person. Doesn't matter your age. There is free education. The oil resources, one of the first things they did was to ensure that at least majority stakeholders, which is 50.1% of anything for oil, is owned by the state itself. The opposition sold JPS, which is an indication of how they handle government resources, right? And key institutions. Now, there's also an aspect in which the current government is trying to eradicate corruption. We see what's happening with the UHII, and these are some of the things I'm pointing out to say we may delay it. I know, to refine oil and the whole process takes at least 5 years to come on stream. But I would want to say, to protect a second chance given to us by God, right? We have to hold it with both hands and protect it firmly, probably even more than the legacy of the current administration, because that's how much of an impact and transformation throughout centuries for Jamaica this can be if handled properly.